This is Robert Clotworthy, the narrator of The Curse of Oak Island, and I have a question for you. Could it be that you are listening to The Curse of Oak Island and Beyond live stream?
This is a top pocket find, mate, for sure.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to The Curse of Oak Island and Beyond live stream. I am your host, Jeff Freeman, and tonight we have John Edwards, Jeff Babineau, and Colin Jamieson. Thanks, guys, for coming. How's everybody doing tonight?
Super fantastic.
Excellent. Awesome.
Super fantastic. All right. Well, folks, this is a good opportunity to jump out here and, as we always do on Wednesday night, and talk about The Curse of Oak Island. The shows the last couple of weeks, they've had some struggles working in the money pit area, as we well know. The thing I wanted to say about this too is the fact that, I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but as the guys are, working over there, and a lot of people want to say, man, they're not finding anything, they're not pulling anything up. Can you imagine how they feel? I mean, look at how we feel about it. And can you imagine how they feel? I mean, Jeff, you mentioned it earlier in the pre-show. You were talking about the fact that look at their faces. When they get down to the bottom and they've hit that bedrock and they're like, well, time to cut the hole. And that's the thing of it, for us, that we are seeing this. And that's why I say the show is not scripted. And so many people, they plant things and this and that. It is not scripted. So we're actually seeing their disappointments and their elation, at different things as they go throughout the entire season. And that's what makes it real. Do we want to see them pull up that gold coin or something, or Gary to find that big hit? Yeah, absolutely we do. But we're seeing it real. We're seeing the real happening on the island each and every week, and their frustrations that they go through as well. So I think that really makes a big difference for me, that it's not, Prometheus tries to put a happy face on it as much as they can because they want people to keep coming back, but it is real. It is real life, reality TV, right? That's exactly what it's supposed to be. And that's exactly what it is. So, wanted to give a few shout outs, man. We got quite a few people, showing up here already. Oh my goodness. We always have quite a few that show up at the beginning of the show. Paula Steen, she was the first one in to say hi tonight. Paula gets the gold star for that. Seth Bounds here. Paula Mason comes in right just a little bit after. Sandollar Ray, how you doing? Monte. Hi, Monte. Hi. I don't think I've seen your name in there before, but welcome. Thanks for coming. Cheryl's here. Let's see who else. Of course, we got Linda and Jan and Tom Burns working hard out there in the chat. I'm sure that Jack Campbell's out there somewhere. Jack, of course, he'll be back on the show here real soon. Sue Jamieson is there. There's Sue. Hi, Sue. How you doing tonight? Let's see. Bob D said, hi, Jeff and group. Hi, back to you. Really appreciate you guys being here tonight. And don't forget, we got lots of eyes, and I've told John to help watch, the chat and help me keep up with it because, as you've seen, it goes by so darn quickly. And we really, I hate missing it. I really do. And Colin usually makes a comment or two about our chat. Go ahead, Colin. What do you?
I'm just looking at it. I know Tara just had to throw us on the bus here. They did 4 cans. Man, did I guess wrong. Tara, that is an understatement for the Curse of Oak Island season, because I was convinced that there was 1 can in there. How close they were together, but 4 cans deep.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we saw at the end of the show they started number 4. Let's see. Mark wrote, I haven't seen you in here before. Hi, Mark. Welcome. Darlene's here. Kathleen's here. Eliza, hello. Ahoy. All right, Tara, of course, and Hugh. Let's see. April's here. Janet's here. Judy Rudabush. Hi, Judy. Welcome. Rita Bunker. Hello from Texas. Texas Hill County. All right. Here's Court Lindahl. Hey, Court. Tom Burns, of course. Jack Campbell, there he is, Holland, Ohio. Hey, Richard Brooks is here. Oh, I got I'm going to wait and see if anybody, as you can see, my studio is changing. And I'm in the process of actually getting things prepared here to put this house on the market. More to come on that. But in doing so, I had to make a lot of changes so that people could see this room instead of seeing a studio in here. I had to kind of open it up. So I'm opening it back up again. So, yeah, so it's a little echo in here, a little echoey in here. But that's why it's all back to what you used to see before, sort of. Let's see. Dale Kearney. Dale's there. All right. My last night in Halifax. Yes. Yeah. You're moving tomorrow morning, right? Is that when the movers show up? I think that's what he was saying last week on the show. Wow, so many chats gone by. Really, Jim Barlow, Wade Buckle, Deidre. How you doing, Deidre? Barbara Duncan. Oh my goodness, so many cats here. Sharon's here. Oh my goodness. Karen Howard. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We got a really good crowd, and again, we're going to be discussing. We're going to take a little deeper. Did you guys watch the drilling down that was on before the Oak Island, Curse Oak Island last night? That was really good. That was another good one. I thought
it's great.
And what about Matty Blake? Matty got inducted into the Fellowship of the Dig. That was awesome. Did you see the look on his face? I mean, I thought he was going to tear up there for a moment. I really did.
I thought he was going to cry.
I mean, that's a big deal, especially for him, because and we've had Matty on the show a couple of times. He's come on the show with us, and he is such a genuine individual. And and I've told him, I said, we get to see the Oak Island through your eyes and the guys and everything else. And it's so cool because of his enthusiasm. We get to, we feel that right along with him. Right. I mean, I know I do. And that's something that, Rick and Marty and the gang, the entire fellowship sees as well. And that's why, it was a no brainer to bring him in. I mean, it really was. So, I mean, congratulations to Matty Blake for that, for sure. Well deserved, in my opinion, because he does a great job with it. And of course, beyond Oak Island, doing all the work that he does there as well. Just fantastic. So congratulations to him on that. But that was really neat because they were diving, off around the Oak Island there and looking for the ice holes. Deidre kind of, talking about that, and laughing about the ice holes. And you have to be very careful how you say it. But you notice Stephen and everybody saying the same thing. They were doing just the same thing, and and going out there and looking for those. So we can talk about that a little bit, as we go along tonight too. I do have some pictures, as you can imagine, that I have pictures of that as well. So let's see. Okay, be sure to send Jeff Babineau's link to the right place. Okay. Did I? Oh, that's right. I did kind of mess that up last time. But yes, Jeff, if you guys haven't heard Jeff Babineau or don't know this already, Jeff is the CEO of Anchor Tours. And you kind of told us a little bit about it last week. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about it again tonight, if you were, for those who might not have been here last week. You've teamed up with someone else in this, haven't you?
Yeah, this year we started our own Oak Island themed tour called the Oak Island Fan Experience, and we've teamed up with Tony Sampson to offer part of his boat tour services included in ours. So it's a good mix. Tony gets a lot of customers that need people to transportation services to get to his location, and we figured, it's kind of a marriage made in heaven a little bit. We're not competitors at all. We're both complementary services, so I can help him, he can help me. It kind of works out well. So I've got a number of bookings so far, which is great. And I'm watching the page analytics on my website, and on that one tour page, the landing page for it's just going off the charts.
Great.
The visitation. So I'm just looking forward to it this summer.
That's fantastic. Now, do you guys link anything on there for people? I would imagine that any space that's available for overnight staying accommodations is probably loaded up really fast or loading up quickly for the entire season, I would imagine. But do you have links on there for people if they're looking for somewhere to stay, hotels and cottages and that sort of thing as well, or?
Nothing on my site. Probably the best place for people to go in terms of that kind of information would be novascotia.com. That's
Okay.
the provincial tourism website. They have a great deal of information on there with regards to accommodations and that kind of thing in terms of locations all over Nova Scotia. But generally speaking, Halifax and the South Shore are really popular. I can tell you last week I stayed in Dartmouth, which is the sister city of Halifax, and hotel rates are starting to go through the roof. We paid $200 a night to stay in a Holiday Inn Express.
Wow.
So, man, that was pretty rich. And so if you're looking at visiting this area, I would highly encourage you to book now and book early so you can get what you want at a decent price.
Wow. That's great. Yeah, novascotia.com, you said?
That's right. Yeah.
Pretty easy to remember that one. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know that. And that's what, now that we've got this season, I was going to say COVID free, but it's not. We're not COVID free, but the restrictions have lifted to a major degree. And because of that, everybody's itching to get out and go somewhere. And of course, where better to go than Nova Scotia and Mahone Bay and Chester and Halifax and all of that. I know that I'm planning on being up there this summer. I know John's going to be up there this summer. So yeah, I mean, I see a couple people on here. Wade said he's already booked with Tony July 20th. So that's awesome. Good job, Wade, to get that done. So that's, yeah, yikes, $200 a night for sure. So yeah, this is, really good. If you don't mind, what's the latest for those who may not already have seen it? What's the latest about crossing over and what's going on in Nova Scotia as far as COVID restrictions? Is everything lifted now, or?
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much everything's lifted. There's nothing that I'm aware of that's still in existence.
Okay. All right. Good deal. That's fantastic. Well, we need to, like I said, and I'm one of them. Everybody's itching to get out and do something, and that's why I had a feeling that things are just going to go gangbusters this year. Poor Karen Publicover and her, having the property right there. And Karen, of course, has the website or the Facebook page, Oak Island from the Other Side of the Causeway. If you haven't seen that, she's been on the show a couple of times. Fantastic lady. But she ends up with people parking all over her property, trying to walk across to Oak Island or do whatever, or get pictures or whatever. And it's really, if you're there and you're going up there, please be respectful of Karen's property and her privacy. Somebody even walked into where they got like their boathouse, the house right there. Somebody just walked in the door there one day and said, "Hey, I guess they thought it was a store, or I don't know." They were eating dinner. They were all sitting around the table eating dinner, and people just walked in the front door. Hey, whoa.
Did you see the picture that Karen put on the other day with the rainbow?
Isn't that cool?
That was the best. And the rainbow landed like right on. It looked for me like right on Isaac's Point. So I think it's could it be if the rainbow was there? I mean,
yeah, the pot of gold is in Isaac's Point. Wouldn't that be interesting?
Awesome.
Yeah, so I tell you what, and Colin has shared some new pictures with me here tonight. So we'll bring those up as we go along on the show. Man, we got a great crowd tonight. You guys, thanks for coming by. Yikes, yeah, 200 ice holes. I know those darn ice holes, but yeah, that was really interesting to see them out there looking for those. I know I'm trying my best not to slip. Let's see. I wanted to. It's another chat that went by. There's so many here already. Matty came close to being that seventh person. Oh, you're talking about when he was having the issues with his malfunctioning diving gear. So you've been through that. They talked about that triangle, Colin. What you've been through that triangle? You ever have any weird things happening to your navigation devices?
I don't know. I might have had like a can of beer. That's about it.
I spilled my beer, that darn triangle.
Yeah.
Spilled on your electronics and they went out.
Yeah.
There you go.
Our cell phones and chart plotters are working great. So I'm not sure about the Bermuda Triangle in the Mahone Bay. I haven't seen or heard of that one yet.
Oh, that's awesome. Yep, there's that cup. So yeah, well, I tell you what, when we are doing our live stream from your boat, we'll have to go through there a couple times and just see if anything happens, if I lose the connection or anything. So
If
we'll
John
test.
drinks enough of his medicine, you'll definitely be seeing something in the triangle.
Yeah, John was telling about us how his doctor is telling him to drink alcohol. Wait, what?
You have the best
Bourbon.
luck,
It's a
John.
bourbon's supposed to be good for a cough.
You know, you can't go against medical
You have
science.
to
right?
have to follow doctor's directions, and I'm doing it to a T.
Did he write that out in a prescription? I mean, was that on a pad?
Sort of.
Sort of, yeah.
It was,
Okay.
it was medical advice.
Okay.
Yes,
All right. There you
yes.
go. See? And you
Yeah.
can't go against that. Doctor's
No,
orders.
absolutely not.
Yeah. So, all right. As we go down that rabbit hole, let's jump into the Hedden Truth. So it was season 9, episode number 20, the Hedden Truth. And again, we got our great synopsis here from Jan Anderson. Jan puts these out and she puts them on our Facebook group page. And if you have not seen that, that we are the Curse of Oak Island and Beyond Facebook group. We are a private group. You have to, request to join, and we do vet as best we can. And we always ask that people are, and I want to mention this too right now, that a lot of people bring up different ideas, different questions, different theories, different ideas on our Facebook group page, and we are encourage that. We also ask that anybody that might not agree with any of those, it's okay to disagree, but just please do it respectfully. Just be respectful of everyone else that is there. And I tell you, Linda and Jan and Tom and Colin, everybody is very adamant, or Henry is very adamant about, shutting down any kind of snarky remarks on that kind of stuff. We will not tolerate that. This is a fun group, a fan-based group. If you don't like Oak Island, then don't join the group. Because we get people that get out there. Honestly, we get people that come on there and just want to tear it apart. And it's like, go somewhere else and do that. This is a fan group. If you like Oak Island, be here. If you don't, go somewhere else and do your weird comments. But
being a fan of Oak Island is a little bit of a sickness. You gotta.
Yep. Yes, it is. It is a bit of a sickness, is it not? Yep. All right. So here we go. I'm going to bring up my my pictures that I love to show, and we are going to roll with it. And I did not have this already pre-shared, so bear with me just a moment. Boom, there we go. Okay, so there we got the money pit. And again, this, obviously the if I could speak, I didn't have any of your medicine, I swear. You see the trees are changing color, so we know that this is probably, I think Colin was telling us, I think in the late September, October timeframe that they were
the
doing the camp.
caissons. They had the big crane out there around third week of last week of September, and they were there till the end of October.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and they said they had enough time or whatever to do 4 cans. And of course, this was while they were finishing up with the third one on this picture here, I believe. We never know for sure these pictures. Some of them could be stock footage that they're picking from somewhere else. But anyway, they were out there in the money pit that morning. You got Rick and of course Gary, and they're getting ready to start the day's dig with DH82. Excuse me, Dan Hensky 82, and they were about I think 100 feet at this point and it was kind of a chilly morning. I know that's what Rick said. A little chilly. You needed to get busy and get rolling to warm up a little bit. And this is where DH82 is located, right on F4, basically. They put that can in right there, which we know was basically dead center. Well, thereabouts dead center of the Dunfield dig area, which is this big white circle. Most of you guys already know all that. Okay. According to the green on the GPR scanner, it was October 18th. Oh, okay. Yeah. That's what Deidre is telling us. Okay. Oh, yeah. And a Facebook user. Who was that? Oh, Jer. Hey, Jer. How you doing? Jer shared some pictures with me today, or yesterday, I think it was. And I thank you very much for that, Jer. I appreciate that very much. We're still working on that, getting this particular grid that is up on the screen right now. We're trying to, Jer shared some pictures with me of the actual money pit that was taken by him from his drone shots
Very
that
cool.
he had, and if you haven't seen those, you can just go out to YouTube and you can just put in his name, Jer Henderson, and you can see those. And he did some fantastic drone footage of Oak Island over the past few years, nothing recently, because now he's in a different position on that. But he did share some pictures with me. And again, I thank you very much, Jer, for that. We will get that put together and we're going to use it for this overlay of the grid. Amy is actually helping me with that. Amy Mulligan. So I appreciate that very much, Amy, as well, for you, the work you're doing on that. So I seen, some of them are popping out on the internet already. And it's just kind of funny how I was talking about this over the last month. I've been talking about trying to get something like this put together. And then you see them popping up on the internet in different groups and shows or whatever. And it's like, well, they know where to go to get good ideas, even though they beat me to it, whatever. We'll make sure it's accurate. That's the thing. And I talked to Steve Guptill, and he said, I can't share anything with you, but I can tell you if it's right. So we're going to get the GG on that, right? And Deidre knows what I'm talking about there. Anyway, all right. So you see this here. This is where they're at right now, the DH-82, and they were about at 100 feet. They wanted to get down because, Robert Dunfield in 1965, he was going as deep as he could. He got down to right about that 140, 143 foot depth, and everything just kept collapsing, on him. And he was just unable to keep going. So they were thinking that he didn't go just quite far enough. And that's what they were really hoping for in this particular caisson, that he was on the right spot, hopefully, but didn't go quite deep enough.
But did Dunfield end up hitting bedrock? Again?
I don't think so.
No?
At least it wasn't stated that he did. That as far as I know, it wasn't stated that he actually hit bedrock. And he was at now, and granted, you think 140 feet, and they've added 10 feet or so to the height of the money pit area with all the leveling and all that. Maybe he was really close.
Yeah.
Good point to bring that up, because maybe he was getting very close to, but I don't think it was recorded anywhere that he had hit it. So this particular hammer grab, I snapped a picture of this one because I was really happy to see, the rock in here, that big rock, and then some of this wood that you see, this piece of wood that's showing up right here on the side. And this was the piece of timber that they brought out of here. Rick kept talking about this being a part of a wall, holding up a wall. He was talking about being about 4 foot, a little over 4 foot long. And as they measured it out, and he was talking about then you would have a little bit on top of it for the ceiling of the tunnel. They kept talking about all the tunnels being about 4 foot. I was thinking, man, that's awfully small, isn't it? Don't you? You can't stand up in it. You'd have to be.
It'd be hard to swing an axe or a shovel or a pick or something in a 4 foot area.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. It'd be really hard to work around, even get around and walk around in the thing with only 4 feet high. We're not 6'8" like you, but but still, that's got to be. I would always imagine them to be like 7 feet. That's because they kept talking about every now and then they would hit a void. So I don't know. Let's see.
Doesn't that limit what's in the money pit area if all the tunnels are 4 foot high or 5 foot high? You're not hauling anything. You're not hauling massive amounts of treasure or anything of substantial size.
It'd be hard to haul out a bucket of dirt out of a 4 foot hole. It'd be tricky, right?
Be a little tricky.
Yep. Yeah, I think so.
If that's the actual and all the tunnels are the same, or and around the same, it does limit the scope of what the money pit area was used for.
Right. Yep. And one thing I noticed, so not only with this was interesting to see the size, this all being cut away, and the way this is definitely, I would say, if anything, this has got to be more along the lines of original depositor or original tunnel, um, because of the way it's, so roughly hewn and chopped away with axes or whatever, to make it. I thought this is really an old one. And, here's an interesting thing. Do you see this right here? I caught this on the video
Yeah.
on the show last night. This tag, that's a tag that I think I don't know this for a fact, but here's the reason why I say I'm pretty sure it's a tag, and they're tagging most of these that they are interested in with that tag system. And I'd like to know just what that tag says. But the reason I say that, here's another one. You see this one back here. This
Yeah.
one's got a tag on it.
Yeah.
So, we talk about how meticulous they've been over the course of the investigation and the treasure hunt that they're doing on the island, how meticulous they've been about all this stuff. And they're going through the trouble to tag at least most of the important pieces of lumber that they bring out of there, as well as the other artifacts. But I thought that was really neat to see. But you see how roughly this is an oldie. This piece of wood, this has got to be tested to find out what the age of this one is. I'd be really interested to see what they come up with. What do you guys think about this particular piece?
I mean, you're posting the stuff underground. You're not trying to polish it up, and it's not something you're hanging on your wall. Is it fun?
Exactly.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there were a lot of smaller shafts between, they said, like the box drains, air shafts, whatever you want to call it. They weren't very large. I mean, they were fairly small. So what would be the smallest thing just to make access points? So this 4-foot shaft may have just been, like I say, an air or a water inlet or whatever, rather than a transport of. Because, John, would the Ark of the Covenant fit in a 4? I'm just asking the question.
Colin, it went through my mind. The minute Jeff said 4, 5, I'm like, wait, hold on. The Ark of the Covenant would not fit.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. 2 cubits by 4 cubits, right? So
yeah. No, it wouldn't fit.
And they said about Billy Gerhardt dump truck's load of silver.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you could fit a dump truck full of silver in a 4-foot hole. But could be wrong. Who knows?
Right. Oh, wow. Who's this here? Oh, Noel. Hey, Noel. Noel Borg is watching us from Melbourne, Australia. So that's got to be... I have no idea. It's got to be, what, early morning there? I don't know. Or is it early? Is it mid-morning? I don't know. What time is it there, Noel? Just curious. I know you've been on it. You've kind of mentioned that to us before, but I was just kind of curious. Anyway, so I just thought that was interesting that they're tagging those. I had never noticed that before. And somebody said, Wade had kind of said, I think about the depth, tagging it for the depth. That would be a great point. Where how deep they found it down. So that's a good point. Very, very likely. I grabbed this picture here simply because, on the show, we only see them, and everybody says, I saw a comment go by there, something about their wife said, oh, more wood. Yay. But it does tell a story. And like that one piece there, when they get that thing tested, it will tell a story. If they're in the right place or how old that piece is, is it pre 1795 and all that kind of stuff. But we don't see all of it. And there's another picture I was going to share too later on, but look at all the wood piled up there behind them. There's an awful lot of wood and an awful lot of boulders that are laying behind them that they are pulling up that they're not showing us. And that's okay. We don't want to see every little piece of it, right? Unless it's something that's significant. So I think that's, but you see all the wood back there because you see them pulling up these hammer grabs and you're like, there's another empty one, just dirt in it, but they are getting quite a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So 10:55, just mid-morning here in Melbourne, Australia. Cool. I've been to Perth and Fremantle. So
Court put on, it's a Solomonic horizontal tunnel. What is that?
Yeah, what is that, Court? Solomon. That was Court Lindahl said that. I don't know what that is. Somebody will have to Google that, or Court's going to have to tell us.
Solomonic.
Yeah,
King
Solomon.
Solomon.
Oh, maybe from the King Solomon.
We'll look it up.
Could it be? So they found finally we see, and of course they made a huge deal out of it, as they well should initially, about Gary getting a hit with the metal detector. We all got very excited. He didn't say anything about it being non-ferrous, but he ends up pulling out this, what we assume from what Gary was saying, is a sailcloth needle. They found those before. They found one before somewhere else. I forget where that one was at the moment. It's probably in the notes here if I just read the notes or the synopsis. But yeah, so they found this thing here. This was at a depth. I'm trying to find it here. Let's see. 2016, they found one in Gal 1 spoils, which was located about 7 feet southeast of this hole here, DH82.
I'm sure it would be a little disappointing, probably spending, I have no idea, probably about $250,000 to put one of those cans down and come up with a sailing needle.
Yeah. And that's,
the look on the face. I can understand why.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I can't even imagine how much it costs. You probably are pretty close, I would imagine. It's got to be terribly expensive to put down a case on for sure. So anyway, they really worked this area over, and they got down again. They hit that bedrock at about that 150 foot mark once again. And I wanted to, before we jump over to the research center, that 150 foot mark, I tell you, I'm a little mystified by this. And Linda was explaining this a little bit, or giving her explanation of why. Tom Burns had gone back, and he went back and he found the episode, because I was talking about this a while back. Wasn't there an episode, or Tom and I was on the show last week, I believe it was. Wasn't there an episode where Vanessa was talking about hitting a void, and we were trying to remember just how deep that void was? So sure enough, we went back and we pulled up he found it. It was season 7, episode 23, I believe. Yeah, season 7, episode 23. It was right at the end of their season, and they did, in fact, find a void, and that's what Danny is saying right there. He said it sure feels like a void. It's funny how they subtitle him, but anyway, yeah, he said it sure feels like a void, and yeah, he said, I'm pretty sure we can chalk that up as a void. Now, they were at about 202 feet, and they hit this void, and it dropped about 7 feet. I think if I remember correctly, they said it dropped about 7 feet, or at least it didn't drop, but there was zero resistance. And I had a picture of this. I know it doesn't mean anything to us. They're looking at these gauges, but he said it's almost like there's nothing there. Okay, so there was almost zero resistance on the oscillator, and the force of it pushing the can down, it was just dropping. That was about 202 feet. So this is what they were saying, that they probably hit into a void or a tunnel.
At 200 feet.
At 202 feet.
Yeah.
Now they're stopping at 150 going, oh, we hit bedrock. We're done.
Yeah.
Am I missing something here?
Yeah, and they had brought up the old ones about the bones. They had brought up, which I thought was one of the most interesting ones, and those were like 165 feet or so. So
yeah,
they were pulling stuff from way deeper than this year. With these big caissons are stopping at 140, 150 feet. I don't
get it.
I don't understand either. But
I'm not a geologist, and I don't understand the soil composition as well as one would. But, and then there was something else, and I'm going to continue on with this line of thought here. But what am I missing here? Why is this 10-foot caisson not? Now I do understand that the caisson's got to dig through this thing, and then when they're putting in the 6-inch boreholes, they're able to really dig through rock. I mean, we saw it dig through stone. We saw the stone with a hole in it that somebody was trying to say was an anchor stone, but I don't know. It was a pretty perfect hole. But so if it can drill through stone, we know it can drill through bedrock, and maybe we know that that kind of a drill head is capable of doing that sonic drilling that they do. And then, but if this caisson, and I believe these ones were the 8-footers, or was this just the smaller one? If it can go through there, and that was RF1.
Yeah.
If it can go through there, then why can't the 10? I mean, is it because, I don't know, is it get gunked up and it just can't? They were showing that stuff and they were showing how it can gunk everything up. I don't know. I'm missing something here. And I don't know. Jim Barlow said, I wonder if they're thinking that Chapel Vault is bedrock. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. Remember, and this is the one where they went and they sat the hammer grab on top of it for a few days.
Yeah.
Thinking that the weight of it would push down whatever it was.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same. I'm thinking what Jim's thinking, because the smaller drill rigs, they were able to push through that harder material, and the big caissons, they're not.
Right.
And back in the old Chapel Vault days, remember they used a small drill rig and kind of punctured through whatever it was, and they came out with, you know, the parchment, the gold, and these things. So, and they've clearly been digging boreholes much deeper than what these big caissons are going. Because even the old skipper dug the original 10X. I mean, was that not in excess of 200 feet?
Yeah. Oh yeah, 213, I think, or more.
Yeah.
10X is quite a bit deeper, yes, or 250s, I think, almost. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's some, you know, unevenness of the bedrock down there, but I'm not a geologist. I don't know, but it does seem really bizarre why this year they're not digging very deep.
Right. I know. And that's just, and I keep wondering to myself, what am I missing here? What's the fact or the clue that I'm missing in this whole thing?
But Jeff,
why?
If you take the hammer grab going down, right, and it's sitting on there, it can't grab anything, right? At all. So, unless you're going all the way through the bedrock, and let's say it's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 feet, you can't lift that rock up with a hammer grab.
Right.
You would have to drill down into the center of it and somehow pull it up like a cork. But the hammer grab's not, it's on top of slate or whatever it is, or bedrock. You can't grab. There's nothing to grab.
Yeah.
There's no material. There's no wood. There's no nothing. So it sits.
It was pretty cool when they pulled up that rock there several episodes ago, that they felt that it was they had put the 6-inch hole through it.
Yeah.
That was a great depiction of what can that actually drill through. It was like perfect. It was like a laser beam went through that rock.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, very clear about how that can, and we've seen that in those samples when they bring up the sausage, they call it, and throw it up on the table and they cut it open. And we've seen chunks of stone in that are perfectly like a little cylinder that are cut out.
But they would have to somehow break that up, wouldn't they? If it's 10 foot down and sitting on bedrock.
But yes, you're completely right, John. Unless they can't pull it up, they can't pull the rock up through it. So
there's nothing. It's flat. There's nothing to literally grab.
Yeah.
So unless they're breaking that up somehow, with explosives or whatever.
But then again, then you say, well, okay, so someone dug deeper than 150 feet on an island 200, 300, 400 years ago, and dug below bedrock. Like, I don't know, it seems crazy, but it's true. But there was clearly someone down there, or at least a hole that someone could drop something down into. I mean, they were not using sonic drill rigs.
No.
In the 1600s.
Right.
Because how old those bones were dated to when? Because they were what, Middle Eastern descent, and then there was someone else from European descent.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I thought
they were in the 1500s.
Yeah, I thought they were. Yeah, I thought so. You're talking someone that was, 500-600 years ago. They weren't digging with modern day equipment, right?
No. Nope.
Norwegian ship called Vikings.
Yep. So anyway, so I just had to bring that up because it's, yes, okay, the 10-foot caisson, like John was just saying, once you hit that, you're not going to be able to go further. Now, that's where I was wondering about that. Didn't they have it was like it's one of the deals that they could bring down through the caisson. It was like a chisel point or a chisel.
Yeah, the Facebook user just mentioned a hammer attachment of some type.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
had.
break
Yeah,
up the
it didn't have
bedrock.
the teeth on it. It was kind of more of just a straight pointed edge, and they were
right.
stretching out.
And they could hammer away or drop it and smack that. I'm thinking they got to. C1, Dave. C1 was in fact below the bedrock. And you're exactly right. How was C1 be able to get down there that deep and be under the bedrock, or at least be at a lower depth and into a chamber? Okay. And also, one other point on this was when they were digging this out, this one here, when they were down, they said, okay, we had the void, it had no resistance, they brought it down, and now they're starting to pull up backfill. Okay, and they were assuming that the backfill and it was clearly black backfill, clearly was, because it was crushed rock that they all recognized was what they had put in to backfill the other caissons. They were assuming because of its proximity to H8, it was the backfill from H8 that they were pulling out of RF1. This was RF1 in this picture, or the one that I just talked about back in season 7. They were pulling out backfill. Okay, that tells you right there that they're in a void of some sort down there. And that backfill is now filled into this, and I'm going to bring this picture back up. Into that backfill has filled into this void area, if it's a tunnel or whatever it is, and you're pulling that backfill up out of there. If you keep putting more and more backfill, when they backfill the RF1, they're going to dump more in there and cover this and fill into this hole.
How many Facebook members is there in the group now? 26.
25,800 and some.
There has got to be somebody with mining experience.
Yeah.
Out of the 25,500 people that are in this group, somebody has to have some mining experience.
Yeah. And we need you on the chat and on the show so we can talk to you about this. I can't get past this for some reason that they can't do what you got to do to bust up that bedrock and get down below it, because you might have been. Now they're saying, it can't be the money pit shaft that they were on top of, or they would have been able to go through the bedrock, right? Assuming that the money pit shaft went through the bedrock.
Jim made a really good note there. The Toonie coin also proves a void. Remember when they dropped the coin down one shaft and really pulled it out of another?
Yep.
I hope he went and bought a 649 ticket that night, because that's what are the odds, right?
Yep. So anyway, so Gal 1 was where they found that sailcloth pin, and then DH82. I just this 150-foot area and then all stop is just, I just want to, and you see the look on their faces when they're like, yeah, we hit bedrock, we can't go any further. Okay, all right, let's pull it back up and fill it in and move on to the next one. I just think they're missing the boat on this.
But the depositors would not have drilled through the bedrock.
No,
they wouldn't have the machinery to it, the modern technology to it.
Right, yeah.
And so, you're going to use natural features like borehole 10X. You're using features like 10X that were natural, underground caverns and such, to maybe part mine and part using the natural structure there to work your way around underneath the bedrock, correct?
Yeah.
And so you're under the bedrock now, which is great, because the bedrock is a natural protection for whatever's underneath. But again, you're not worried about the water level is also different when it was made. If we're saying Templars or Rosicrucians or whatever, water levels at 6, 8, 10 feet lower. Mm-hmm. So those holes are going to be ventilation air holes, not not a trap.
Right.
So it's different. I don't think it was man-made. I think a lot of what was used by the depositors were natural features. It would have to be, almost. In your opinion?
Yeah, this was Janet here that said that depositors could have dug at an angle along under the bedrock. Yeah.
Could have done that.
Yep.
But it's a good point on the were they originally air vent holes, which as the rising sea levels, the topography changed, turned into flood tunnels accidentally.
Yeah, that's kind of what we talked about a little bit last week. That they would have been air shafts to get fresh air in there. Then again, using the money pit shaft as a chimney
Yep.
to pull the air in from the other air shafts to get fresh air down there for the workers. And then when the sea levels rose,
Yeah.
you know,
Because didn't somebody, weren't they pulling out at one point, they were pulling out carbon material like coal from burning at depth. I thought that was from a couple of seasons ago. They had pulled out little pieces of like charcoal, which would deem that they were lighting fires at depth too. Again, for what purpose? Was it to create circulation for this tunneling system? You know, because clearly there was tunnels that were coming and going, whether they're air vents or drain or water intake tunnels.
Yep. Yeah, we kind of speculated too that once the water level had gotten to down those flood tunnels or down those tunnels, those air vents, and then everything was filled up with dirt and everything, so it kind of created a vacuum, so to speak, like a straw. When you put a straw down into a cup,
Yes.
you're holding your
Yep.
finger over the end. Once you take your finger off and you let that air out, which would have been the money pit, once they were digging down in the money pit in 1795, they got down to a certain level. Now they've taken the finger off that straw. Here comes that water, fills up the money pit. It might not have been anything having to do with the 90-foot stone, but just happened to be that that's the level they got to that uncorked the vacuum, thereby letting the water flooding. Because that's when they said they left and they came back the next day and it was full of water, right?
Correct.
That's right.
And this is a great comment, and I think it needs to be asked: was there more than one entrance into the tunnel system? First of all, is
Had
there
to
a
be.
tunnel system? And I think there is a tunnel system out
Yes,
there,
I
whether
agree.
it be natural or a combination of natural and using the natural features, kind of tumbling around. But was there more than one entrance? We
Yes.
think the money pit area was an entrance. Was there an entrance in the swamp? Was there an entrance over near the hatch or under the hatch? How extensive is this tunneling system?
Well, didn't they
That-
do a lot of seismic testing, like in the swamp, where they basically blew up 3/4 of the island?
Yep.
You would think that if there's any kind of serious uh, tunneling system, they would find that almost instantly, because for the length of it would have to be in order to be even kind of meaningful. You think that it would be like very simple to pick up.
Depending
But
on
I don't.
how. Go ahead.
No, they didn't. They didn't make mention of any of that when they did
No.
those seismic testings, and they had multiple companies in there. So I'm just not sure how. Maybe it's hard to say if it exists or not.
Right.
Well, I mean, there's stuff coming in from the Isaacs Point, Smiths Cove side. There were clearly, because when they did the size, they kind of showed some
Yes.
tunneling, or maybe to your point, John, they were natural structures kind of coming in from that side of the island.
Sure.
When they dug away Smiths Cove and they found the box drains, I mean, they were really like this big. I mean, it was not, you think
Right.
some tunnel someone dug down. I mean, the access point was very small. So they were coming in kind of the side island, going through. To what avail and why? That's the question. Again, was it to put treasure, or was it a mining operation? Why would they have so many multiple tunnels put in there? Are they box drains, or are they air vents? Even the coconut fiber that in there, would that have been used just to filter, certainly filtering sediment from water, but would they use that some type of material for filtering the air coming in and out of the vent? I don't know. I'm not.
Yeah, I think it would. It would be a perfect filter for the time.
Yeah.
In my opinion. And we talked about that too, is that when they did, they took the original seismic study, the data from the original seismic study that was done across the money pit and all the way down to Smith's Cove and all of that. They took that data and they had new software. Remember, that's when they went back this year. and they used new software, and this new software was able to diagram, and it did look like you two were just saying, natural tunnels, because they were not, you know,
Yeah.
box type. They were very oddly shaped and different sizes, bigger here, smaller there, and all this kind of stuff, which would indicate,
Yeah.
maybe it was natural. So were they using natural tunnels? Very likely, and that's how they would be able to be under the bedrock, maybe, right?
I think I guess very wrong on the tunnels or on the how many caissons went in. But the Muon data, it'll be interesting. I think that's where the season's going to end, because I think they're going to dig. I think they're going to, whether the last episode or close to it, I think my guess is that they're going to show, look, we've collected this data, check this out, and it's going to be very, very revealing as far as what is actually underground. Because, I mean, we've seen them dig the holes on the Smith's Cove side. We've seen them dig a hole kind of on the north side by the water on the Money Pit side. And I suspect they did one in the other. So they kind of triangulate it at depth and use that Muon technology to kind of give a full scoping scan of the underground of the island.
Yeah.
Well, to Jeff's point, that if they did actually, they did this swamp, experiments to see how, if there's anything. How far down does that go, Jeff? Did you know when they did the seismic operation in the swamp?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
Jeff B had mentioned it. Do you know how far that seismic, testing goes down?
I don't recall, but I do know I'd heard a comment, if I recall from watching some of the shows, that they said that the charges that they set off was around 1/4 pound of TNT per charge.
Okay.
So that creates an awful big bang. So what's coming down there has got to reach well underground. We're not talking 5 or 6 feet. It's going to have to go like 100 feet below, I would think.
And so if there's something below, I guess my point is, you keep hitting this bedrock below that. And so if it's 150, 180 feet down, it wouldn't be detected through those the seismic readings that they did, correct?
It depends on how far it went. We don't know right now.
Yeah.
It'd be really interesting to know.
Right.
Yeah. If it's 100 foot, I just don't know. I'm going to have to research that. But, depending on how far down that went, if the threshold of the readings, only go down so far, and the actual structures are down below that, you would never know. And you might skip something very important. You might say, oh, there's just nothing there. And guess what? It's just so far down that you would never have seen it, because we know the tunnels are that low, that far down.
But that Muon data, someone just asked, what is it? Isn't that reading like cosmic radiation? Is that what that's kind of the core basics of it? Because they were using it in Egypt to scan on some of the pyramids and so forth.
Yeah, it's definitely what it does is it looks at the muon, the basically space particles that are passing through space all the time, through us, through everything, through the earth, through trees, through everything. And these things are able to, they put sensors down, they're able to actually read it. And then if there's any voids or anything in the ground between that, it will pick those up. You should be able to see them.
If it reads it over like a long period of time, isn't it? When it collects the data, it's like over a period. It's not like a snapshot and here it is.
Yeah, exactly. They have to do the and you can look it up. It's spelled MOU or MUON, Muon technology. You can Google it and see, but it looks like cosmic rays basically, and it detects it, and you should be able to see its effects as it passes through the ground. Cosmic X-ray. Yeah, there you go, Tom. That's perfect. Yep. So cosmic radiation, and makes a 3D picture of a solid area. So it's looking for stuff in the ground, and hopefully that will. I think you might be right, Colin. That it's actually going to show us something at the end of the season, because we know they were out there, because they were talking about it when Joe Lessard was on the island, and that was midsummer, I think, or late summer.
Yeah,
he was out there.
They would never catfish us at the end of a season, would they, Jeff?
No, of course
Never.
not. They wouldn't give us a cliffhanger, would they? Well, we'll see. I think I got a feeling you're right because and I keep going back. We're like, oh, they're not going to find anything this year. Oh, they're not going to find anything. And I keep going back to how happy everybody was at the end of the season. I mean, we were talking to Steve and Laird and all them guys seemed really, really happy at the end of the season. Now, it might have been taking a long time to get that happiness, but they all seemed very happy at the end of the season. So, what are we going to find out? We'll see. All right, let's jump back into this real quick here. And
we're sure it's going to be the last episode because there's anything to salvage out of this season, it's going to be the last episode.
Yeah, probably. Right. It'd be the war room session at the very end, and Craig Tester will come in. Well, I've got some data here to show y'all. And yeah. The last 10 minutes of the show of the final season finale. Yeah. All right. So let's jump over to the research center. And this is where we have our good friend, Carmen Legg. Carmen Legg shows up and they invite him to come out and have a look at a few things. There were some things that kind of went by during the season that I was hoping he would look at, but he may have, because if you saw the number of bags, look at all these bags they got laying on the table here, and we saw him look at two things, and they got quite a few. So we didn't get to see him look at some of these for whatever reason. They decided not to show us. But Craig and Marty are there to show me. He says, here's one. And he pulls out what they found over this was in lot 8. I believe they said it was lot 8 area where we see the guys doing the scanning with that. Oh shoot. It was Paul Troutman was out there. He was doing the scanning on lot 8 with the, that was the OKM Gepard ground penetrating device. Say that all. But anyway, we'll get to that in just a few minutes. But here they were looking at some of the artifacts that they found. And one of them was he called it a chinking tool. Yeah. It looked like it was a chinking tool. And that was for he talked about putting put chinking into, the cracks, like between the boards of a ship. Using for sealant, putting chinking in sealant in there. And then the chain. And that, well, let's get back here for just a second. Let's see. I was just reading my notes again here. He said also it could be that, or it could be the driver to drive down the iron bands on a barrel.
Yeah, I think that's most likely.
Yeah. So you've got to drive them down so that they get to where they're very tight. And I always wondered about barrels. How did they work? But once you get that wet and it expands, that's how it seals. And once it's wet. Because you think, man, those staves, those pieces of wood, they're not going to, how's that going to seal? But once they get wet and then they expand, they seal themselves in. So, yeah. So one of the two is what he was talking about on that. And then he found this piece of chain. Now, they were thinking this piece of chain last week, they were talking about it. Maybe it had something to do with a harness or a bit for a horse or something. I'm like, nah, I didn't buy into that one. But he came up with a great one on this. Was talking about it being a chain. Let's see, a piece of chain that would have been used for. I'm looking for the term here. Or like this here, and I kind of lost the term. Did you guys catch it? Part of a chain is made to contain something.
Using logs in the water.
Boom chain. That was it. A boom chain. Yeah. Right. Logs that they would wrap around logs or something like that to keep them gathered together. And then he showed some different concepts of how this would be used for like putting a barrier across a waterway to keep boats from being able to come in. So they would put a bunch of logs together, use these kind of chains to go around them, and then, or other boats linking something together, and then thereby keeping them from being able to get a boat through that area.
In Chester Basin, which is not that far from the island, back in the day, I think in the 1700s, there were some fairly large logging and milling operations in there. Mm-hmm. That they would float a lot of the wood down from the rivers into Chester Basin, which is the salt water. So it wouldn't be unusual to have some of that type of logging equipment, that chain. if they're using that to collect up the logs back in the day, to end up on Oak Island would not be a stretch.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a good point. Might they also use a chinking tool to seal or waterproof a chamber? Possibly. Possibly. But anyway, so that chain was pretty cool because you think about that. Was that piece of chain, was that there were they using that? Was that left over? Was it just something, a piece of chain that somebody had? Or was it, like this person here said, who was that? That was Hugh. Hugh said that right there about talking about, bringing logs over there. Maybe Oak Island, if they needed to bring in logs from somewhere else
Yeah.
to do their tunneling, their walls and their ceilings and whatnot in the tunnels, and they used this chain, they wrapped it around logs and pulled them over from the mainland.
Yep.
They've discovering that Lot 8 had a lot more uses than what they originally thought, don't you think? With these different things that they're finding.
Did they not say at one point that there was a mill on the island?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, maybe they brought over logs for that purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's hard to say.
And ship repair, of course.
And ship repair. Yeah, tell us about what you saw or found on that.
Well, ship repair. I know the Vaughns were involved in ship repair, and had
And the Vaughns, who again? The Vaughns?
Vaughn, Anthony Vaughn, and Vaughn, McGinnis, and Smith, and they had ship repair places nearby as part of their family. So we know that the Vaughns were involved in ship repair. So that's kind of curious, and there we have the swamp, which, has a pine tar kiln and other things. And we're pulling out all sorts of different, boat parts from the swamp. Very easily could have been a ship repair place. And we've discussed that before. So, the ship repair was needed in that area. And there was numerous ship repair. I mean, Colin and I were talking about pre-show that there were many places along the Mahone Bay area that were ship repair places. So we know it was in existence, and we know there was a need for it, and supplies, of course. Oak Island was not the only place that you could have got ship supplies.
No, I was just reading here as well, some of the Heritage Society notes, and there's a shocking amount of old mill operations that were happening in the 1700s in that in the area, and like in the Chester Village, Chester Basin, those were all. There was a lot of forestry and that kind of stuff going on. So it wouldn't be unusual, I don't think, to be pulling stuff out to the islands and get washed up and showing up there. So
Yep.
Well, they claim that there's been so many ships built in Nova Scotia over the years that there's very little in the way of old growth forest left in the province, except for maybe the Cape Breton Highlands in some areas, because of the lumber industry, the milling industry, the boat building industry. You just have to look everywhere from Halifax right to Lunenburg and Liverpool and Shelburne and all those areas. Like, I mean, even your small village that would be, very modest in size, every one of them would be building vessels of some kind, and it just wouldn't be along the southern shore. I mean, you had the Bay of Fundy region, Parsbro, Port Greville. My family's from Port Greville. There was remnants of an old shipbuilding area there up till the mid-1970s, until they had a massive storm come in there and blow what was left of it all away. So even small communities had boat building areas. That wasn't an uncommon thing at all.
All right. Yep. And they're going to need a lot of lumber, and like not only building but repair, like John was saying. So so it's would Oak Island make a great place because you wouldn't have to bring it all the way into the mainland. Oak Island would have made a good place, and we do have a lot of evidence that they found that it's very likely that they were doing some kind of boat repair or ship repair on Oak Island. I mean,
you have a slipway. The swamp wasn't the swamp truly. I mean, there was a natural spring running through the swamp at that point. But you also have the road, and you also have, a couple bulkheads, and you have a possible pier sitting there. So, it just makes sense that would have been used for repair.
Oh, here's a good thing. Amy went and looked this up. I knew somebody would. and leave it to Amy to go look it up. Seismic blasting in the Money Pit area showed anomalies 100 to 110 feet. They used the same type of blast strength tunnels in the swamp. Could be seen to some depth. I think it depends on the tunnel function. Yep. So there you go. So yeah. So and those tunnels, and like you said, that did reveal with that new software they were using, and going back over that data again, that those tunnels were very likely natural. Some of them. And you see that you're looking at the chamber, that 10x. I mean, that 10x chamber. I mean, that's pretty fascinating. I think.
And Dan pulled out a lot of artifacts from the 10x chamber.
He did.
You know, all sorts of metal and other things from that 10x
Proves
chamber.
that somebody was down there.
Someone was down there. You know, but they were using the natural topography, the natural features of the island. You know, which makes sense because you don't want to redefine those features. You want to use them to your advantage. It's just
but how would you find those? How would you find those natural areas though? Like, I mean, you just have to be stumbling along blind to be able to do it. You know what I mean? Like it would.
Yeah.
It would be dumb luck to find it, I would think, to begin with, and then to be able to exploit it would be a very big challenge.
Yep. I think that what they're doing now, but now last summer when they were doing the diving and they were looking for the ice holes, that right there is where you're going to be able to maybe reveal some of that, because you're going to, but again, that vegetation is covering up so much. But I think that because the water levels would have been lower.
Yes.
Those things, like we just talked about earlier, would have been above ground or above water, on dry ground maybe. And somebody saw an opening and, I don't know. It's hard to say.
It could be a sea cave or an entrance by sea, by water that's now covered over, and Jeff B makes a great point. How would they even have known? Well, there had to be an entrance. There had to be some way to know. I mean, we know the relics are there. They've pulled the relics. Dan pulled the relics out of 10X. So we know they were down there. That's not something that Dan, left there and, they were there. So if they were there, the question still is, where would that entrance be?
Right.
And, we know how Dan found it. I believe he used dowsing rods.
He did.
Is that correct? So
Yes.
that's how he found where 10X was. But, where was that original entrance? It would seem that original entrance would have to be by sea, would it not?
Right. Yeah. I would think
Or some entrance by, and when I say by sea, just somewhere off the coast of Oak Island or somewhere. Was it the hatch? Was it, was it the money pit? Is that how?
Are you saying that there'd be a tunnel entrance from underwater to come in?
Correct. It's never really been explored, but back then it wouldn't have been a underwater entrance. It would have been above water. It would have been above ground.
Yeah.
You roll back 10 feet, 8 to 10 feet. That's a game changer.
It's true.
And so could have been like a little place that you would enter into to go underground and really go underground.
Why not?
It would seem to be, there would have to be another entrance. How do you explain it?
Oh, yeah.
How do you explain all that down there?
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree with the idea that there was another entrance or multiple
at least one.
Yeah.
And then where would that entrance be? Would it be at sea, or would it be somewhere on the island? Is it a place on Xena's map? Is it a place somewhere off Smith's Cove? I mean, where is that entrance or entrances?
And could they ever find it now? I don't know. Because you would think that over time, the storms and everything else, if it was underwater, eventually it's going to be filled with sediment.
Yes.
So the opening that was now underwater may never, ever be found because its sediment has gone into it from just so much movement of the water and everything else. You may never find it.
Well,
I think the sea. I think an entrance from the sea is that's a stretch.
Okay. Well, it wouldn't have been a sea, would it have, Colin? 10 feet down? Tides 10 feet lower?
Even still, like you would have been off if it wasn't at sea level, it'd be awfully close. And I guess anything's possible. I mean, anything's possible.
But where else would you? I mean, where else would you enter on that island? The hatch was filled in with all sorts of debris when they dug at the hatch. Originally dug at the hatch.
Yep. I'm with you, Tara. I'm with you,
Ah,
Tara. I'm with you 100%. I'm with you. I still think that the eye of the swamp has
yes.
something to do with this. I
On that
really do.
Isaac's point, there were all those big depressions and tunnel systems that was coming in on the Smiths Cove side because
Yep.
it's much higher, and they would have kind of because you could have really come into the wall and kind of went
That's possible. Yeah.
because there was. I mean, there even in their scans they were showing that entryway that was going down. But they never really did anything. Remember, there was like the 12 by 12 foot. So it almost looked like a chamber in that last series of the scans they had done,
Mhm.
but they never really did anything with it. Kind of showed it. They showed the scans. They did a 3D little
Mm-hmm.
video walkthrough, and then it kind of dropped it, and they kind of just didn't talk about it anymore. And that was coming from like Isaac's Point across towards to the money pit. And then that was the question: is that an entrance? Was it an air shaft? Was it a flood tunnel? What?
Right.
And it had collapsed. I mean, there was something there again, whether it be a natural depression or a natural chamber that was there and it collapsed, or it was a man-made chamber that collapsed. I don't know.
Richard says, "Where is the 10x in relation to the borehole grid? What would that's 50, 100 feet up the hill and back behind it? Is that about 100? I don't know. What do you think, Colin or Jeff? From where the grid is down in the money pit to back where 10x is it a couple 100 feet? 100? But it's not far back. John, you've been there on the island. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Well, it's not far from the Women's Memorial.
No, it's back behind the Women's
Yeah.
Memorial.
Yeah.
Maybe 100
Maybe I
feet
would say
back
what 50, 60 feet at most, if
I
that.
think you're.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah, if that. If that.
there. So it's pretty close.
It's
Richard.
close. It's very close.
Yeah. Definitely
And-
within the whole tunneling, natural tunnel. If there are natural tunnels there, and again, he found a chamber down there, 235 feet down.
So there has to be natural tunnels. I mean, we've established that. I mean,
Yep.
10x establishes that,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
the relics established that someone was down there before the 10x went. It was in existence. So how do you enter those tunnels with those artifacts being in 10x prior to it being dug? Someone was down there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Definitely somebody was down
And so if that entrance isn't by sea, which might not have been by sea at all at that point, it might have been land. Where on the island, there has to be an entrance on the island to the natural tunnels that are on that island somewhere. And
There's
it's just a
definitely
matter of
someone down there. Just the age-old question: why were they down there?
Yep, I know. Yep. All right. Well, I'm going to show this picture here real quick. This is what I think Henry
Whoa.
DeWitt had shared this one with us, and it kind of shows one of those chains and the logs and stuff going across to block off a waterway of some sort. That's where you'd see those boom chains being used in something like that.
Wow.
Kind of thing. Or like we said, the wrapping logs or that kind of thing to get across to an area. So next we have the guys jumping over to the war room. And this was kind of I thought was a very interesting part of the show last night. They're jumping over to the war room and you got your Dr. Lee Spence is in there with Tony Sampson and Stephen and the guys. And they are starting to talk about the anomalies that they found with the magnetometer that they had floating around, and they went all around the island during the late summer months, and they captured a lot of data. And so Dr. Lee Spence and Tony were really excited about doing some diving. I grabbed this picture. I wish that was something they found, but this was something that Dr. Lee Spence had found in his career of diving on wrecks and stuff, and his underwater archaeology. He had found some interesting things. And they were kind of looking at this one spot right here. And this is where I'd like to show also Colin has some interesting pictures. But this is where that shoal is we're just off of Frog Island. That's Frog, right? Yeah, because this one's Apple over here.
Yep.
And this is so here's Frog Island. Here's those group of anomalies that they found. And then, of course, Oak Island. And this would be... there's you can see the Nolan property right there where the house is. So Smith's Cove being around the corner here, so it's off that shoreline. That's where they were going to head out and have a look at those. Also, this area just off of lot number 4 or 5, would that be 5 and 6? Lot number 6, or right in that area. I think this is supposed to be lot 5. And so that would be an anomaly they found just off that area there that they wanted to get a good look at. This is where he points to the one right there on the lighted map on the screen. And then they got diving, which I thought was pretty cool. I thought this was neat. Now, some people are like, what are they bothering with this? Why are they getting in the water and bothering with going out here and looking at this stuff? Well, I think the reason I think that if they find it important, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, is that because it would show you if they could get something up off the bottom and pull up some evidence, it would show you who's been around. So, okay, are you going to find French stuff? Yeah. You're going to find British stuff? Yeah, probably. Are you going to find Templar stuff? Would love to, right? So, this is the kind of thing here that it would help you. They want to get answers to certain things. So, is that a stretch for me to say that that's exactly what they're doing? Is they're trying to find out who's been around, if they can find some evidence?
Could be a little made for TV episode, maybe just a little.
Yeah. Now, and so they were getting a lot of hits. Now we talked and I'm going to let you go on this because I thought the discussion that you guys were having in the pre-show was really cool about these hits that they were getting, and I think it should be noted. They were getting a lot of metal hits, but you see all the vegetation down there that they just could not, and they're not allowed to dig down there and find out what they are. They have to go and get permits. They were hoping they could visually see something, but with all this kelp and everything down there, it was just impossible. So you think, oh, well, it was a big waste of their time. But, they did get a lot of hits. Now, you guys were talking earlier about some of the stuff out there. What was some of the things you were talking about that you would, could be misidentified as maybe a shipwreck?
Well, Jeff, you were hitting on it earlier about fishing equipment and so forth as well.
Yeah, I mean, fishing was one other than boat building. Fishing was a major occupation in the area for centuries.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not uncommon to lose fishing gear all the time. So, I referenced in our pre-show about an article that was done about 2 years ago now in the Bay of Fundy region, where they brought, several hundreds of tons of old fishing gear up out of the Bay of Fundy. And pardon me, I don't have the exact reference here in front of me. But the bottom line was that they dredged the Bay of Fundy region, and they brought up tons of this old fishing gear. And it's not with it's highly anticipated that you're going to find a lot of that stuff at the bottom in that area, because as Colin, you mentioned that they're gearing up here for a lobster fishing season, and a lot of those guys are going to lose traps along the way. My daughter's boyfriend is a lobster fisherman, and he's constantly buying new traps to replace ones that break apart or are no longer salvaged or whatever the case. So there's got to be tons of that stuff that they're down there that they're going to find. That it'd be a shame if they just went to the work and got a permit, and then all of a sudden they just found a piece of rigging or something like that off of off a piece of broken fishing boat or something.
Right. Yeah.
And there's government public records on all the shipwrecks from, I think, like the early 1750 to present day, and there are thousands of recorded shipwrecks on the coast of Nova Scotia. And never mind, that's not including all the just regular Joe fishing boats and dories and probably pirates and everything else in between that were not registered vessels that have gone down in around that area, because it's a dangerous spot to get around those islands. A lot of shoals. That frog shoal, which they showed, would certainly fetch a larger boat up pretty quickly on low tide. You get yourself in trouble. So I don't think it's abnormal to have a lot of old boat and fishing equipment in the water down there. It's everywhere.
Right. Wow. I wanted to show the one picture you were talking about that you sent to us earlier. And that's it right here. This shows the shoal that they were referencing. Right here's Frog, of course, and there's Oak Island. And looking at this would have been an island at some point, when the water levels were lower. I think it's showing like 22, 12 right here. 12, is that 12? I think it's like, I don't know. Are these feet or meters or what do you think? Is that what these are?
That's feet of water, yeah. And
Yeah.
Frog Island Shoal, I'd say I've driven over through there 1,000 times or more, and in a powerboat under low tide, you're never going to hit anything. It's not marked. Even today's navigational, there's no markers for the area. A deep shoal boat would certainly hit that on low tide. That wouldn't be high tide. They wouldn't, but low tide you could.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I marked that lower red little marker off the money pit because I sent a picture. I watched the boys out there diving.
Yeah, I
Right
know
there.
that was neat. Because and I think that's where they were talking about the ice holes being, in that area. Yeah, here's the picture here, and you guys can see, there's the dive boat or the dive barge, and we very clear that was it because it was had the red canopy on it when they were diving. So that's when Dr. Spence and Tony Sampson were diving there, and I think that's when they were looking for the ice holes right there. And you can see there's the money pit, and the stone triangle would have been right around in here someplace
Yep.
at that point. So if it were still around. So anyway, that was the picture that Colin shared. It's kind of funny because they showed a picture when they were on the episode of drilling down, and I think I grabbed it. I might have to bring it up before we're done here tonight, but there was a picture, or it was them filming from that boat or one of the other boats that was there, and they were looking back. They were talking to somebody, and they were looking. I think it looked like your boat. It might have been your boat that was out there taking a picture of them, and they got you.
I think that day actually was on a Sea-Doo with my sister was on back with me. We were on a Sea-Doo.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Then maybe it wasn't your boat, but there was a boat out here about this angle, and I remember seeing this picture and thought, I wonder if that's Colin.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, yeah, so that's pretty cool. And then here's a couple of other ones that you shared with us. Yeah, this is a little bit clearer showing the water, the depths right here, 17 feet, 22 feet, 30 feet going through on either side, 34 over here. So much deeper, but then definitely, at low tide could definitely grab a boat going through there. These are really cool pictures. I'm really glad you share these with us.
But Jeff, blow that up again, if you would.
Okay.
Can you blow that up? So let's look at those as though they were, 1,000 years ago. That would have been 12 feet. That would have been, at that point, a shoal above the water line, and 14 feet, and 7 feet. Easily could have snagged a boat at that point.
Oh yeah,
a bigger boat, and just ripped the hole.
It goes to show you how shallow the water. So on the swamp inlet, it's very gradual that goes out. You can get in quite close, on high tide.
Yep.
But if you think, a couple of 100 years ago, boy, there would have been a lot of exposed. You couldn't get very close. And that's why I think you've seen the remnants of the old, the stone pathway and stuff was probably old slipways and cribbing structures to put wharfs that went way out there.
Yep.
Because you see where it goes from like blue to white in where the swamp is. That inner point, that's where that stone pathway. Remember they showed the images kind of where the cribbing structure would have came out.
Mm-hmm.
It would have went out in that deeper water, so you could bring a boat up into that V into the swamp area.
Yeah, right here.
Pretty slick. Yep.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, this would have been this. You're talking 41 feet out here, not that far out from there.
Yeah, because even when you're coming in between the islands and you're making the round around Smith's Cove, Isaacs Point into the swamp area, there's a rock. You can see it depicts with a red square with a black dot in the middle off the point.
Right here?
Yeah. Yeah, you got to be some careful coming around there. So it's because the green is underwater, but it's very shallow.
Yeah.
And look near the causeway, Jeff. 8, 7, 9.
Yeah, that's what I was just pointing out too. And here's another thing that I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I said at that point it would have been a peninsula, not an island.
Right. Here's something that I was thinking was that remember they were talking about the two wharfs that are going out from Samuel Ball's property down right in this area. This is something it just dawned on me just now by looking at, and again, thank you so much for sharing these pictures with us. Because those wharf, remember they said there was one that was shorter, but one was longer. And it was like 100 and some feet long. Would that be why? Because it's reaching out to this deeper water right here. So it had to go that far out. They were like, why would he have a one that was that long?
Yeah.
But look at the depth of the water out here. You're talking in the 40s and 50s and feet deep out here.
Yeah.
Not that far out. So a 100-foot, wharf would get you into that deeper water.
Yeah.
Definitely something to consider. But this would have all been dry ground at one point. 7 feet deep, like you were just saying, John was just saying. This would have been it would have been dry ground at one point.
Yep.
That's really really neat to look at these. I really like these pictures. Oh, this is that big what is it? Big Tannock?
Big Tancook. You remember your pictures you were showing the other week in the morning?
Oh yes.
You can see it in the horizon. That was just really to give you an idea of the distance. It's about 10 kilometers. I don't know what that'd be in miles, but
wow. Look at all the islands. I mean, there's just so many of them. Why Oak Island is so
Like to me, Big Tan Cook Island would have been a more logical place. There's been talking about Oak Island being a military facility and that sort of thing. I mean, if you look where that Big Tan Cook Island is, it basically is a commanding, view of the entrance point to the Chesapeake Basin.
Absolutely.
So if you're going to put cannon anywhere or a military base, it's going to be right there.
Yep.
Because you're going to be able to blockade the whole harbor area, the bay area from that point. That would be, if I were putting a boat building place, it would be on the protected side of Tancook Island, not Oak Island. I don't know what took place at Oak Island, but I would think you'd put it on the sheltered side of the island on Tancook Island, and that would give you a far better vantage point for doing that kind of stuff.
I think Oak Island would have had more access to resource and the native community at the time, like the Mi'kmaq would have been there. Big Tancook would have been, it's hard to get to. It's back in the day, you would have been trying to row a dory. There would be, and there's permanent fishing villages out there even to this day.
Yeah.
But it's pretty exposed. It's rough. It's, depending which way the wind blows, it's a tricky spot. Whereas Oak Island, you're close to shore. You can get fresh water. You can, animals, hunting, fishing, all that kind of stuff can be accessed.
Where did you get these from?
I just use a Navionics app. It's just a navigational app that I use.
Okay.
Going in around the islands, and I just use this for scale of distance and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to picture it unless you're there and driving around. It kind of gives you a better scope. When you see it on TV, they kind of focus on this one island, but when you kind of see all the stuff surrounding it and realize the shipping lanes and how to get in and out of there, it's a very, very unique area.
It really, truly is.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep, it really, truly is. Let's see here. Okay. Oh, this was a picture I wanted to show this real quick before we move on. This was the one where I was talking earlier about all the wood and boulders that have been found that we just haven't seen on TV. They haven't showed us. Look at that. Look at the piles of it. I mean, there is a lot of wood they're bringing up that they don't show us on the show.
Yeah.
And they tag it all, don't they? Don't they? Chronicle everything they have and tag it. And
look at the size of these boulders.
That's crazy. That's a lot of work.
I mean, that is a ton of stuff coming up out of there. Yeah. Literally a ton of stuff coming up out of there that they have not shown us. So everybody's but all that is, if they've determined that that's newer, that's from Searcher Wood or whatever, they're not going to bother. I mean, don't save us from some of that and show us that older piece, like the one they showed us earlier. That really old piece that they brought up, I think, is the significant parts, not much of this other stuff that's brought up.
Part of the archaeology is they have to log all those discoveries in, correct?
Yeah.
Isn't there a database?
Absolutely.
And they have to keep it all.
Yep. Yeah, that's the other thing. It all has to be logged and kept.
Yep.
Put away someplace. All right. So anyway, they were doing the diving, and I think that they might be right. Everybody was pretty adamant about the fact that over on the Frog Island Shoal there was a lot of metal hits, and I think there was a very good idea that there would have been um, some kind of a shipwreck there. But as Colin said, is it possible that that could have been documented? If it was a newer one, where would you find those documents? Is that listed someplace, or would you just Google shipwrecks in Nova Scotia, Mahone Bay area?
Yeah, they got a government website, and there's goes in. But too, like Frog Island. Remember on Smith's Cove when they had dug all that up? There were all the slipways and everything on that side,
Mm-hmm.
and that Frog Island Shoal is like it is literally like right there. Like it's a stone's throw from it. So
all right. Okay, so next the guys jump over to the war room, and we're about an hour and a half in, so I'm going to kind of move along here. So back over to the war room. Now this is where they are making a decision here about where to put the fourth can in. They came to a dead end on the DH-82, which was, remember, on F4. That was on F4. So they decided to go ahead and take a look at the map and kind of get an idea of where they wanted to go next. Craig Tester. Now, these two red circles, these are your the Fellowship one. Excuse me, the Fellowship one and Early Christmas one. And then this one here was the bottom of the Dunfield dig, but this is also where they did that was where the newest one. I'm at a loss for a number all of a sudden. It was the Dan Hensky 82. That was this one right here. And so they decided that what they would do is would go with Craig's recommendation. Okay, I wanted to show this real quick. So you got TF1 right here. This is the first one. You got EC1 right there, and then DH-82 was right here on F4, where it went down. That was the Dunfield dig, basically the center of the Dunfield dig area. Now they're looking at this spot over here for number 4, which is, I think they said DE over by DE11, which would put it right about in here. You can see my mouse. I know it's really hard to see how small it is. But right here, DE11 is where they're going to pop the next one over by the Hedden shaft. This is the Hedden shaft right here. So that's where they're going to go with the next one. Something that was neat to point out that Craig tells the team that Erwin Hamilton thought that he had gone through a tunnel that was leading to the vault, but he did not realize it. At the time, Hedden thought it was a flood tunnel. Or not Hedden, I'm sorry, Hamilton thought it was a flood tunnel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But now, he wasn't really sure. Could he have gone right past the tunnel that they needed to find? In 1940, Hamilton and his team built a 6 by 6 foot by 6 foot shaft extension of the Hedden shaft down to a depth of 170 feet. Again, we're going past that 150 mark where the it's an all stop for us today with the bedrock. And again, that's where I run into that whole, I get aggravated about that whole thing with the he went down to 170, and the area, the land was a little bit less there, so that might even actually be 180 compared to today. It would be 180 feet, okay, because they've added so much to the Money Pit area dirt wise. At 150 feet, Hamilton's crew hit a 4-foot tunnel that they thought was a booby trap tunnel. So I think this makes it a good place to put one. What do you think? We'll see. Hopefully they'll get a good thing on there. Now, it was kind of really cool, I think, and it's a good thing to point out that, Craig Tester, naming this one DMT2, which was Drake Maxwell Tester, who passed away. That was his son, I believe, that passed away. Was that 5 years ago now? Gosh, it's been a while, I think. something like 5 years ago. So
Mhm.
definitely an emotional one for him. But wouldn't that be cool if this was the one that got them the answer, or at least the one thing that Rick is always looking for, that one thing to prove that this was not all a wasted effort, that they are in the right area and they're going to find some answers to what's down there. I think it would be just a phenomenal, really, to get that answer. And if it's now that, and that's jumping quite a ways over. Now, granted, these are what, three, a 5 feet across each one of these, so that's not that far. You're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's actually in the notes here. Yeah, 5 years ago. It was 5 years ago that Drake Tester passed away.
Well, number 4's got to be it, guys.
Yeah,
There's
it's going to
no
be the
more
last
after
one,
4.
right?
That's all they had.
Yeah, it's just outside of the Hedden shaft. So yeah, right in here is where they're going to drop the next one on DE11. So I think that's a good start. I think that's a good place to go. Well, we'll see. Was the money pit? I mean, C1 had such promise, and then they were popping around. Somebody had even mentioned, why don't you just go right down over top of C1 with the new one, and go back down into that chamber. There's a chamber down there. We all saw it. It's down there. So we'll see. And somebody had also mentioned, when you're putting these caissons down, just like these guys, is it possible you could go right past a tunnel and not even know it? You would get that void area. You would have that area that the caisson or the oscillator is not working too hard to push something down in there. So you would know. I would think you'd know. Somebody said, "Man, you need some way you could look from that caisson. Back it off a little bit and then get down there and look, or something, if there's a tunnel that you missed." Like this one here. This is what this is exactly what I was just talking about, where these guys came across the tunnel, but they thought it was just a flood tunnel, so they kept on going. It might have been their access, and they didn't even realize it and went right on past it. So this is the spot right here. That's where they're going, right here on the edge of the Hedden shaft. That's where they're going to pop the next one and put another caisson down. And that's going to be our DMT2. The last part of the show, or this, well, it wasn't actually the last part, but this was where they were, it was actually earlier on, and I had my pictures out of order to the synopsis, and I apologize for that, Jan. But anyway, so this is where they went out and they did some work with the OKM Gepard ground penetrating device, which I guess we found out later, it weighs like 3 pounds, this thing. Really lightweight. And I thought this was pretty cool. They went out there. This was on lot 8, right? Yeah, lot 8. Rick and the members of the team go out to lot 8 and they're scanning for anomalies, magnetometer hits, and this was based on the magnetometer hits that they had. So the team hopes to use the information to apply for a permit. Somebody asked about how long it takes for a permit. Obviously, months and months. It must take months and months to be able to get anything. Yeah, I hear that too. I'm not sure what that is. It must take months and months to get some of these permits. I really don't understand it, but I guess COVID and everything else, we've kind of talked about that before, maybe slowing the whole process down to some degree. But to get Paul Troutman, it was nice to see Paul back out there and doing some stuff. So Paul's out there working this rig, and he does some scanning over there, and they found what I thought was really cool. There's a shot of Steve and our Steve and Paul Troutman. And here's lot 8 where they're working. I thought it was very, very interesting that as he's going along and he's doing these scans, they came across, I think I got a couple better pictures of it. They got these anomalies down there. Here's a better look at it right here. Okay, so you got these anomalies that are just a few feet under the surface. Okay, and then you got these that are about 20 feet down. What in the heck is that?
Could it just be a foundation from an old home or house or shed or something from back in the day?
It's possible.
20 feet down?
Pardon me?
20 feet down?
Right. Well, and saying that, I guess it is possible, but they also said, and again, this is going back and looking in the records, Rick had mentioned that there was there's no record of any house or building built in that area. And unless it goes back past, pre what, 1700, maybe. Looks like you were going to say something there, John.
I was going to say, look at all the right angles in that structure or whatever that is.
Exactly.
When you see that many right angles, it's man-made.
Yeah.
Just like that. That's an awful lot of right angles.
Yep.
And it looks
Did
like
they say what the dimensions of it were?
Well, what he did do is he turned it sideways. This is when, oh gosh, who was it? Dave Fernetti. Was it David Fernetti that he was out there before, or they were using it before with Alex, and he took that and he moved that line over. It was on the far side over here, moving it towards his finger, coming back this way. And he said it was about 7 feet over from where they were. So that would put this whole thing to be somewhere about from that end to this end. I'm going to throw out a guess there of about 25 feet.
Well, the square on there, look at the very top. Does that say 5 feet by 7 feet, or is that 15 by 17 feet?
This is 15 by 17 right here. There's 17 on this side, 15 on this leg.
Yeah, so if that whole length is 17 feet, that takes up a little over half, so probably 9 feet.
Yeah, you're right. Yep. Good point.
By 5 feet, like it's not a huge.
So I've got another picture here. Maybe no, that doesn't help much. Yeah, 15 by 17. If this is 15 feet, yeah, I was way off. So if this is 15 feet from here to here, then this anomaly can only be about 10.
Yeah.
About 10 feet long.
So it's
but
nothing.
There's two of them.
Yeah, it's nothing big enough. Could be the remnants of an old well. That being that deep, but like this, a dug well typically in that area would probably range from 10 to 20 feet for a regular dug well.
Right.
Just thinking, you seen on someone post that Laird Niven had that 3D graphic of Samuel Ball's property.
Oh, that was awesome.
That was great.
Yeah, and it kind of showed he had almost, I don't want to say advanced for its time, but he had, kind of a pseudo, what appeared to be like a septic system, kind of runoff from the house at depth.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I mean, is that a similar type of setup they had on the other side of the island? Because it's not a really super big structure. It was
right.
I don't know.
No, you're right. It was actually very small. They were running that snake cam down through there to try to get a look at it. Was that the one you're talking about where they were trying to run that snake cam down through there?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was basically a basement drain.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it could be something like that. But the point of doing what they're doing here, the point of going down there and doing this scan and getting this data is so they can go back to the whole permits thing, so they can get the permits to be able to excavate this area. Because right now they're not allowed to. They have to have proof, or as much proof as they can get, of a man-made structure below ground, thereby giving them the ability to then go get a permit so they can excavate it and find out what is it down there.
Yeah.
Right angles don't exist in nature, so I mean, what you're looking at there is proof positive.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. That's exactly the point. Yeah, and that's why obviously they weren't out there for this. They looked like they were out there for 15, 20 minutes, and they came, oh, hey, here we go. We're all done. They were out there much longer than that. This is what we got to see of it. They're not going to show us the whole thing, but absolutely. Yeah. Good point.
But there was lots of farming. They would have had animals. They would have needed water sources and probably had barns or workstations around. So
yeah,
I don't think it's out of the realm of a well or a barn or something that they would have had over there. And I know he says, well, there's no records of a building there, but there would have been a ton of stuff that didn't have permits to build a home on, right?
Right. Yeah, like Linda said, the ball had the drain from the cellar. We ran downhill to keep the water out of the cellar. Yep, exactly. This could be now. Remember too that they were talking about how they saw the depression in the ground right there.
Yeah.
It looked like a square area. It was a depression.
Yeah.
If there was something down, and that would be probably indicated by this first one that's only a few feet down, that if it were something that was dug there and then they filled it in years later, it is going to, make a depression on the surface. But still, I mean, what do you guys think? Is this giving you enough evidence to say, yeah, we need to dig that up and find out what it is? Right? I
It
mean,
was a really small amount of information. I mean, the boys kind of had the preset. They just walked over it, they turned, and this is what you see. So really didn't give us a lot of information.
right. Yep. Very true.
But would it safe to say that's going to take place next year? Because if you look at the you know, at the leaves and stuff on the ground there and the clothing that they were wearing, it looks like it's obviously late in the fall. So if the permits take months to get, would it safe to say that this isn't going to take place until next season?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree. Which is why they needed to be doing this in the first place. The same thing happened when they were over on the other side by the southeast corner of the swamp, and they were working their way towards the pine tar kiln. And they were finding that there was actually some anomalies there, looking like there was a road. That road went up that way, right? So, again, same thing.
And that may explain why they haven't, even tried to tackle the chamber near the money pit area that they featured at the very beginning of the season, because maybe they're waiting on permits. Maybe this is something like they're gathering facts this year, and they're going to have to wait for permits in the off season because it could take months.
I wouldn't think a lot of the permitting would take a long time, though. I mean, Larry Niven's kind of a direct, he's like the archaeological connection to the province, and I don't think they'd be slowing things up very much.
I thought Dale Carney had mentioned that because of the staff shortages, that's been holding up a lot of the paperwork.
Could be. That's true.
Because of the COVID. So that may be a possibility.
Yeah. Amy said something about at best 10 days before COVID, and then now we're months out for things that used to take only a few weeks. Yeah.
Yep. I agree with that.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, but again, this is what they have to do to be able to get those permits. So it is needed. And I want to know, now that I've seen this, I want to know what that is. And hopefully we'll get to see, and I don't know how much of this we're going to see the rest of this season. Obviously, I think we got, if this was episode 20, I think there's around 25 episodes this season. So we got about 5 more. We're going to see, they're going to stretch out this next can over at least 2 episodes for sure. So they're going to have to do some other stuff here to fill showtime as well. So hopefully we'll get to see some more of the scanning that they're doing in this area and maybe others, because I think that, that was one of the things that was kind of drawn back this season, at least halfway through the season, when the archaeologists were, let go from the island. That we missed out on some of that excavation that those guys did, i.e. the Ball property and McGinnis Foundation and the different places like that around the island that they were working. Season 8 they had the road, thus they were going following the stone path and all the things they found there in the swamp, right? So, I mean,
since these two anomalies are on top of each other, they have to be related, right?
I would think so.
I would think so.
Jeff, can we just revisit the Ball property for a moment? Just like, the thing about that Laird Niven put up on the site the other day was absolutely fascinating to see. But when I saw that, like, it really kind of put things in its proper perspective, like being a 3D kind of environment. Mm-hmm. Like, the show purports that Samuel Ball was like one of Nova Scotia's, wealthiest landowners.
Yeah.
But when I look at that 3D representation of what his property was, it looks like a very modest dwelling.
Yeah.
How do you go from being one of the richest men in Nova Scotia to living in a very modest, let's say, middle class property, when you can go to nearby Mahone Bay or Lunenburg and see what Georgian and Victoria homes look like that were multi-level properties that draftsmen, businessmen of all types, of all flavors would buy. And everybody that was anybody, if you were a wealthy man whatsoever, you put all your money into your home because that's really all you had at the end of the day. So when I look at that, I don't know if it's for the show purposes or not, but when I look at that, I don't see the wealthiest man and one of the wealthiest landowners in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, that's a good point. But now, granted, too, that house may have been built before he really became his wealth, and he owned property on the mainland. So where did he? I don't know. It's hard to say. I started looking into his past, but you're right. You make a valid point.
Yeah.
I mean,
He
if he was
also-
one of the wealthiest, he's going to have a very nice place to live in, you would think.
It says he also owned land on Hook Island as well, that he purchased in 1790. So, that may have just been a working quarter stake when he was, he was a cabbage farmer.
Yeah.
Well, it
And-
already said that his family inherited that property and lived in it for many years. If I recall correctly, I'd read that. So, I mean,
Okay.
if you're thinking that his family actually lived, like his wife and kids and their successive generations, you think it's got to be their principal residence, because otherwise they would be given a bigger property, right?
Because he bought property. He expanded and bought additional.
Oh yeah, he had hundreds of
lots
acres.
of lands up beside it and around that original property as well.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, he had 7 lots on Oak Island, I think, and then he had a lot of land on the mainland.
Yeah.
So he was selling lots and lots of cabbages.
3, 6, it looks like he had 9, 6, 7, 8, 24, 25, 26, 30, 31, and 32.
So 9 properties on Oak Island.
Yep, total 36 acres.
On Oak Island. And then what was on the mainland?
It said over that Ball owned approximately 100 acres of land, as well as Hook Island, and another 3 acres of land on another island. So he owned quite a bit. And it didn't say what he owned on the mainland. That's just his island purchases.
Right.
So he owned quite a bit of land. Maybe one of our listeners will know how many acres he owned on the mainland, but it was quite a bit.
I think there's no doubt that he found something.
Oh yeah.
And I think which inspired him to go and buy. He bought a lot of other islands and land down there because he was. If I found this, what else could I find down here? Type of thing.
There we go. Over 100 acres on the mainland.
Yeah, Linda had the answer. She knows. She's looked into the Samuel Ball quite a bit.
Yep.
Yeah, 9 lots on Oak Island and over 100 acres on the mainland. So yeah,
wow.
I mean he did. So I don't know, but then again, why was his place
modest?
Modest, yeah, very modest. Yeah.
I mean, land could be bought really cheap back in those days. Like, if it could be even given to you for free if there was an unsettled area, and you realize that all you had to do was petition the Crown in Halifax, and within a very short period of time, you could get land. It would be granted to you almost immediately. Yep. When you came a settler, when the British, the standard British incentive to get you to go form a new colony was to give you free land and free provisions for a year.
Yep.
And that land was basically worthless. I mean, it would be something for somebody that never had anything, but you could basically get land for free. So I don't know how much value that land had at that particular point in time, but obviously what he had, 100 acres, is pretty substantial.
Right.
Yep.
Give you lots of land so you could pay tax on it later.
Yeah, exactly. Very good point. Yeah. And that even the land on Oak Island, had to be because there was no causeway back then, so you had to get out there by boat. I would think that would make that land a little cheaper, to buy.
It'd be a lot of work to get there.
Because so much work to get there, yeah, and to bring over your oxen, to get your oxen over there, and to get your tools and just everything, out there, it would have to be very difficult to do. One thing too is that, and Tom just brought that up. He said to some very rich people from meager beginnings, personal comforts mean nothing. So they are focused on because they are so focused on their business. So that's a good point too to think about as well. So,
but a lot of the islands out there, like he was clearly a farmer.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of islands used for in the summertime. They bring livestock out, and because of course you didn't have to worry about them. The sheep and stuff getting away from you, so they would take livestock out to the islands to feed and live during the summer months.
Yep,
and
sure.
So that would not be unusual for them to own a bunch of islands to be doing that stuff.
Right,
and free from predators.
Yep. You didn't have to worry about fencing. You didn't have to worry about your right coyotes getting them or anything like that. So,
yeah, this was an interesting picture. Before we go here, I want to show this one too. Is that this particular screen or picture that Henry he comes up with some really, really cool stuff. Henry DeWitt. Let's see here. I want to bring this up real quick here. This is in our Facebook group page. And it was this. Oh, that's not doing very well. Sorry about that. Let me stop that and restart it. Okay, it's not good. It's still flickering. Anyway, that was showing the Hedden shaft and the chapel shaft down there, which is really cool. And there was actually another picture that actually showed them that had you could actually see the wood on the surface. Do you guys remember seeing that one? It was in the group also. It was actually showing the wood making up those. Now, obviously, this was before the guys got on the island. Let me see if I can. No, I can't pull this one down, but it actually shows all the lumber on the top.
Yeah.
I was, and again, there's like a fence to keep around it to keep people from falling into it. So they knew where the Hedden and the chapel shafts were at one time. So that's why they got a pretty good guess where they're at now. Now they're going to be putting that caisson in the ground next to it. So I don't know, pretty cool. But now we're working on what is it, DMT2? We're going to be sinking DMT2 in the ground, and we're going to see what they come up with on that one.
Mhm.
That's caisson number 4. So we were all wrong. Actually, I think we do have a winner who had picked number 4. I think it was Les Bitton, Bitton, and I've already talked to the person that said they were going to give out the free prize. So we'll announce that officially next week on next week's show. But I think that's who it was. But anyway, had picked 4 caissons. So yeah, we were all wet with that one, Colin. We had no idea.
No,
I wanted to show this.
way off.
Just before we go. If I can take it off the wall before I break it. This was I was gone over the weekend. I made a little run up to ran over my cord there. I made a little run up to Michigan over the weekend, and my cousin Richard has a new toy that he's messing with. I got to show you this. It's Oak Island time. He made this clock. Isn't that cool? At Oak Island time, and it's got Oak Island down here and a treasure chest right there, the Templar crosses, and then these ones right here are the actual the lead cross in
Wow.
there too. So isn't that awesome?
That's very cool.
So so this is my new little thing. I had it hanging up, but you could barely see it back there, so I had to bring it down so I could show you guys. So yeah, my cousin Richard made that, and that's her. Yeah, cool clock. I think it really is. That's my new little. I'm getting so many Oak Island little gadgets around here
I'll
now.
buy one.
Huh?
I'll buy one.
You know what? And I told him, I said, when I show this thing, he's got some other. They're the same kind of design, but he's doing some. We're gonna. You may have the possibility to buy one. I'll put it
I
that
want to
way.
be first on the list.
All right, sounds good. But yeah, isn't that cool though? I mean,
Yep.
he comes up with the design.
That's awesome.
He built this machine. I mean, he bought all the parts and he built this machine to make it. And once he gets everything, and he has to lay it all out and do all the coding and everything like that, and then it goes out there and starts cutting this thing out. So, can you spotlight yourself on the show? Okay, the clock ends, yeah, so we can see it better.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Nice.
And those are little anchors all the way around the outside. Those are anchors.
Did you say anchors? No, I gotta have one. Name your price.
And he can custom make these too. To say, obviously he custom made this one. So yeah. So anyway, so that's my that was my gift from cousin Richard. So yeah, he's a man of many, many talents. Indeed, engineer kind of guy. His machine he made is that the correct time Eastern? Yes, it is. It is 9:30 right now, and we are 2 hours into the show. So we're going to wrap it up. And this was fun. I always have a great time with you guys, John, Colin, Jeff. Man, I hope I know I didn't give you a lot of time to talk. I'm sorry. It's but get your 2 cents in there. But we really appreciate you guys coming on the show. You guys are phenomenal. I really appreciate it. We're going to have next week. We'll have different faces in here probably. talking about episode number 21, which is, I forgot the name of it already. That was the Hedden Truth I had in there.
All I know is the previews had mentioned Ark of the Covenant. That's all I know.
A lot of secrets. A lot as in which lot? Lot of secrets. So maybe it's lot 8. Maybe they're digging up lot 8. Maybe I don't know. We'll see what that one's all about. We did have some. I didn't get to see the preview. Did they have the preview for next week's show?
No, they didn't.
Was it embedded in the show?
I've seen it on. Yeah, it's been online. They had the guys were talking about the. What is it called? The historical. It's got the stones in it. And this is where they talked about. He actually did bring up Ark of the Covenant. That's what was was in next week's show. So as soon as I heard that, I was like, John Edwards is going to be on this one.
Tell you. Well, we didn't see the vortex forming over Oak Island, so I'm not so sure that they found the Ark of the Covenant. So when you see that big swirling vortex, you know that and people's faces start melting off. You know, I think we'll hear about that in the news, right? So. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. Thank you so much again, guys, for being here tonight. We'll have some different folks on. Hang out if you would just a minute when we get off the air here. I want to talk to you guys real quick. And thanks again for everybody that showed up here tonight to watch the show. Really appreciate it. We love your comments and questions and everything you added to you guys really add to the show. And that's what this is all about. We have some neat stuff coming up in the future here. When we talked about Carmen Legg, Carmen's going to be coming on the show. Our next Saturday show, which is on the 9th, we did have Graham Phillips scheduled, but then he had a conflict that he had to take care of. So he moved out of that slot. We're going to have him coming back in June or July. But we have something really cool that and Linda and Tom and Jan, they all thought this up. It is, I think we're calling it My Oak Island Tours with Jeff and Tom. So Tom and I are going to be having people coming on the show that have been on Oak Island tours. And they've taken pictures, maybe a little video or whatever. So these are members, people that you see on our Facebook page all the time or YouTube or whatever. And they're going to be coming on here and they're going to be sharing pictures. And so each of them get like 30-minute slots or something like that. But we're going to go through their pictures and they're going to get to tell us about their experience about being on Oak Island. I think this is a fantastic idea and it plays right into what we are really trying to do here. This is an interactive Facebook group. This is an interactive show. That's what we love doing it because we get to interact with you guys on this and share everything Oak Island related. So this is going to be cool. So you're going to want to be, that's April 9th. We're going to start at 2:00 Eastern time. And we're going to be sharing, My Oak Island tour with Jeff and Tom. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait for that one. And then, of course, we got other folks lined up coming. We still got Laird Niven coming on the 23rd of April. And we got Ian Spooner, Dr. Spooner, and Steve Guptill coming. That's going to be awesome. And maybe one surprise guest on that one. That's going to be on the April 30th. And we might have a surprise guest on that one as well. So you guys are going to want to stay tuned for those. So again, thanks folks for being here. If you want to help support the show, we got our Patreon channel, JFree906. We have several patrons out there. We thank you very, very much for helping out. It does indeed get us to be able to be on here every week. So we appreciate you very much. And of course, click on that subscribe button and click the notification bell so you know exactly when we come out with new content. That wraps it up for me, guys. Thank you again very much for being here. And we'll see you next time right here on
guys.
Island and Beyond live stream. Good night.